I'm not opposing democracy. I'm not opposing Brexit. What's happening here is a court action to stop Boris Johnson from breaking the law. Parliament have passed a law that says this country can't leave the European Union without a deal on October the 31st. And they passed a law mandating him to request an extension until January so we can try and sort things out. It's a very sensible thing to do. Boris Johnson says he won't do it, and that would be illegal.
Well, if Parliament have passed a law making it legal for him or illegal for him to do something, and he hasn't done it, then how can you have a lawsuit that stops him from doing something that he hasn't done?
But that's what injunctions are for, Mike, and maybe you've never come across them. But as an environment protester, I've come across them often.
I've come across loads of injunctions in my time in Fleet Street, and usually they were brought in by people who wanted to hide something.
Well, my experience of injunctions is that they're brought in by people that want to suppress something, some law breaking. So in the case of environment protests, for example, you'll get an injunction that says you can't collect here, you can't congregate, you can't block the road or whatever it is. And in this case, we're simply saying we want to stop the Prime Minister from breaking the law. And do you know what? It's crazy that we should have to do that. I mean, what kind of country are we living in?
Well, I wonder what the answer to that question is as well, because this is not the first lawsuit that we're facing. We've had one lawsuit up in Scotland, which was first of all ruled that Boris Johnson was not in fact breaking the law. Then we get another appeal to that case in which they say he was breaking the law. We then have another one in Belfast, which is saying that, there is no danger to the Northern Ireland Peace Agreement by the government's Brexit strategy. It just feels, and I know I speak for a lot of people who listen to this show, that there are people like yourself who have got wealth and influence, and you're using that against what is the will of the people, because after all, people did vote to leave the European Union. We still haven't done it.
Yeah, but it was a very simple question, wasn't it, in the referendum, shall we leave or stay? And the people campaigning for leave never talked about no deal. And if they did, they said,
actually, that's not true.
If they did, they said it wouldn't happen. No, they talked about...
David Cameron is on video saying that if we have 2 years to do a deal with the European Union for leaving, and if we do not manage to do a deal, we will leave anyway without a deal. That's what he says.
But the campaign for leave... the positive aspects of the campaign for leave, they talked about how easy it would be to do a trade deal, how we would have the choice of Norway, Canada plus, Canada plus plus. Boris Johnson talked about cake and eat it. It was going to be that easy to do. They didn't say that we would have a no deal. They didn't say no deal is a realistic option. Nobody campaigned for it and nobody voted for it.
But one of the reasons why it's become so difficult is nothing to do with leaving the European Union. It's everything to do with the makeup of the parliament that we currently have in this country. Because Theresa May, unwisely in my view, and now in probably her view, decided to have an election that she didn't need to have. She lost her majority. Therefore, she wasn't able to make anything happen. And that's why we are where we are, because the people who sit in Parliament are not representative of the people outside Parliament, because many more of them want to remain in the European Union.
It's not many more, is it? And I don't think Boris Johnson represents the people of this country. I mean, look who elected him, 60,000 members of the Tory party.
Well, hang on, he was elected as an MP to this country, which is much more representative than anything that you can bring to the party, because you are simply appointing yourself as the sort of defender of democracy, because you've got the money to pay for it.
Not true. And what you're overlooking there, you've just shot your own argument in the foot. The whole of Parliament was elected by the people of this country. You just said they didn't represent the people.
No, I'm saying that they don't represent the people's views. I didn't say they didn't represent the people, so I haven't actually shot myself in the foot at all.
Well, I think that's hard. That's a hard argument for you to sustain. I don't think you know that they don't represent the views of the people.
Well, they obviously don't, because every time we've had an election about the European Union in recent years, it has been far and away in favour of leaving it. The biggest political party that won in the European elections is the Brexit Party. The Brexit Party has won seats which previously they didn't even have any hope of getting. But they are kicking various people out of power because the people want Brexit.
European elections is just a chance for a protest vote, aren't they?
Well, it's still an election.
Yes, but it's not an election.
So you only count some elections and not others, right?
No, I'm saying that you're making a mistake. It's a false claim that you're making.
How?
That represents somehow the will of the whole country in respect of Europe. It doesn't.
Well, it does. Of course it does. How else are you going to measure the will of the people except by having an election? I mean, it's like these politicians, Jeremy Corbyn, for example, who spends an entire year saying he wants to have an election, and as soon as he then gets the opportunity to have one, he doesn't want one.
Jeremy took a very sensible position, and he made his point clear. He said, let's have an election, but before we do that, let's take the danger of no-deal Brexit off the table.
Yes, and then that law was passed, Dale, and then he still didn't do it, even though he promised that once that law was passed, that he would then have an election.
But look, you've got Boris Johnson saying he's going to ignore the law. How wrong is that?
Yeah, but everybody says to me, and people like you would probably agree with this, that Boris Johnson tells a lot of lies. So Boris Johnson says many things. He doesn't do them all, does he?
I don't think the fact that he's a liar should take away the risk. That
I didn't say he was a liar. I say a lot of people say that he is.
Whatever. Well, I don't think we should take away the fact that he's a liar. I said it. That doesn't take away the risk of a no-deal Brexit.
But you've got a law which says that he cannot leave with no deal. But
Absolutely.
the problem is, with law, as you well know, because you've now hired a whole coterie of barristers, and I'm going to ask you in a minute how much it's going to cost you. The point is law is an arguable thing. People can interpret the law in different ways. As I said, John Redwood, on This Morning with Julie Hartley-Brewer, says that the Hillary Benn Act is superseded by the European Withdrawal Act, which is a European law, because while we're still in the EU law oversees British law.
Yeah, I'm sure John's wrong. But look, you say the law is arguable. Surely politics is more arguable.
It is, but it's arguable in the scenario and in the arena of politics. I mean, you own a football club, right? It's been a very innovative and interesting football club. The way you run it is unlike any other football club. But if you were losing a football match, you wouldn't suddenly bring on a sort of a JCB digger and put it in front of the goal and say, right, now we're going to have a proper match, are you?
No, that's a silly thing to say.
Why? That's effectively what you're doing. You're telling me that
in order... Absurd.
You're telling me in order...
Absurd.
Well, I'm not being absurd. I'm saying that in order for you to make politics work, you are seeking redress in the courts. You're asking for the courts to do something about something that hasn't happened.
Let's use your metaphor. We're in a football game. We don't like the way the game is going. We bring on a sub, not a bloody JCB.
Well, I mean, you've hired the equivalent of a JCB with old Jolyon Morm, a man who's a tax lawyer, right, who can't get the obsession of Brexit out of his head, and he can't stop talking about it.
We've hired the equivalent of a super striker.
Who have you hired?
Somebody that can come on and make a difference. Jolyon Morn, I'm saying he's not the equivalent of a JCB. He's the equivalent of a player with great skill.
The equivalent of a plank. He's a tax advisor.
That can change a game.
But he's a tax advisor.
Well, look, he achieved a ruling this week from 3 Scottish appeal judges that Boris Johnson lied to the Queen.
How did he achieve that?
By going to court and making his case. The
government
themselves played their role in that. Because
can you please point me...
If you read the ruling of the Scottish judges, they said the government failed to make any case for why they prorogued Parliament.
But you've just shot yourself in the head there, because what's actually happened is that they have not said that Boris Johnson lied to the Queen. Because you know as well as I do...
He misled her. That's different language.
Well, it's not different language. No, misleading and lying are two different things.
Fair enough. Whatever.
This is what happens when you get into the Laudale. You get people giving you different definitions and telling you different things.
No. In everyday terms, you mislead somebody deliberately, you lied to them. It's fine. Judges won't use that language. We can use that language.
Yeah, but you can't say. But you cannot. Yeah, but you cannot say, Dale. Come on, you cannot say that the judges said that Boris Johnson lied to the Queen, because that's not what they said. That's not what they said.
That's really funny coming from you.
Why?
Okay, but let's move on from that. The point they made is that the government didn't make a case for why they prorogued Parliament. They couldn't explain themselves or didn't bother trying, and on that basis they concluded there was no reason for proroguing Parliament other than to shut down Parliament so that it couldn't get involved in Brexit. It couldn't prevent a no-deal Brexit.
Let me ask you another question.
Which is shocking, it's wrong, it's undemocratic. How on earth can you support such a thing?
Because it hasn't yet reached the Supreme Court, and it may very well be reversed when it gets to the Supreme Court.
No, I'm talking about the shutting down of Parliament. How can you support such a thing?
Well, the proroguing of Parliament?
Absolutely.
Well, the proroguing of Parliament had to happen because, unfortunately, Parliament was not doing its job. Oh, you know that as well as I do. Parliament is not doing its job.
That's really funny. Parliament did its job. You just didn't like it. You just didn't like the job it was doing.
Listen, I'm not a Brexiteer. People think I am. I'm not. I just want the will of the people to be enacted. It's simple. I'm a Democrat. If you have a referendum and you tell everybody that you're going to enact what happens in that referendum, and you tell everyone that no matter what, it is the choice of a generation, once in a lifetime opportunity, not the first of many referendums, not the possibility that it might not be in any way enforceable, you get on with it and you do the job. And Parliament is there to find a way of doing that, and it's not doing that.
And Parliament have tried, and Boris Johnson voted twice against Theresa May's deal, twice.
Yeah, because Theresa May's deal was a crock, quite frankly. It was not very good. It was not leaving the European Union. And
oh, really? Well,
yeah,
that's interesting.
It wasn't.
So you know what the will of the people was, and that was to leave the EU, but you also know that they didn't want to leave in the way Theresa May had set it out.
Well, because staying in a customs union...
And you also know they want a no-deal Brexit, presumably.
Because staying... I don't know what the people voted for. I'm not arrogant enough to say that...
You just said you did.
Well, no, I said they voted to leave the European Union. I'm not going to tell you... I'm not going to tell you that every single one of them voted to leave with no deal or leave with a deal. I don't think most of them care which way we leave now, and all you're doing is complicating it further by spending lots and lots of your millions on a bunch of lawyers.
You're funny.
I am funny.
But look,
I agree. Finally, we agree on something.
Yeah, we do. Let me put this to you, because we may agree on this.
All right.
The referendum was 3 years ago,
Yeah.
and the context of the referendum was completely different to where we are today. We have tried as a country exhaustively to get a deal that Parliament can agree on, and we've failed, and no deal is looming. And the government's Yellowhammer report shows quite starkly the bad impact on this country that leaving
It's a
without
worst
deal-
case scenario.
Oh, absolutely. And when we leave, it's not over. We then have to negotiate a deal from a place of great harm and great weakness. So what's the point of rushing into that scenario when actually we should probably say to the people, look, this is where we are now. 3 years later, we all know much more about what leaving the EU means. How do you want to play this?
Yeah,
Second
well, I
referendum.
think you're the one that's joking now, right? You're telling me about rushing into something. 3 years it's taken to get here. What do you mean rushing? We haven't rushed anywhere, right?
We are about to jump off a cliff for the sake of a
That's not true.
three-month extension.
That's not true.
Have you read Yellowhammer?
Of course, I've read it. Yeah, and
Okay.
it is not in any way accurate. I've had several risk assessment people. I talk to a lot of people, Dale. Okay?
Okay.
I've had risk assessment professionals tell me that it reads like something written by a sixth form student. It does not read like a risk assessment. Right. They also do risk assessments on aeroplanes. They also do risk assessments on school trips to Thorpe Park. You know, every time you look at a risk assessment, it includes bad things that might happen. Somebody said to me yesterday, if you pick up the laminated piece of paper in the back of a plane seat, which shows a plane on fire and people, falling out of the plane, it doesn't mean you don't fly, does it?
All right, now you're doing an Andrea Leadsom.
I've never been accused of being Andrea Leadsom before. That's a world first.
She said we shouldn't show the people Yellowhammer because it would worry them, and actually you could cross the road and get run over by a bus, and we don't all want to worry about that, basically.
Well, that is more or less true, though. I mean, there's a reason. There's a reason why when you do a business deal, I assume you have hordes more lawyers who look into what's good and what's bad, what could happen, what's the worst case scenario, what's the risk, and all of that. And that's simply all it is. It's as simple as that.
And what did it say?
What?
Bad things are going to happen.
It said bad things could happen. It said might happen. It didn't say will happen. You know, we've had the people who run most of the insulin into this country had to put out a tweet yesterday because people are panicking so much to say that please don't worry, we have got plenty of insulin. We will not run out of it.
That's because they don't want panic buying. We all don't want that.
Well, why would you want to cause panic buying by telling people that there's not going to be any insulin?
There are going to be medicine shortages. That's a clear impact.
No, there aren't.
A clear impact.
There are
Yellowhammer
absolutely
says
not.
so.
Well, Yellowhammer might say that in the worst case scenario, but frankly, everybody else who's sensible, including people who have worked at the ports in Calais and in Dover, say there won't be a problem. Let me ask you this. What is so great about the European Union that you can't bear to leave it?
This isn't about that. You're mistaken.
How?
Because this is about stopping our Prime Minister from breaking the law.
This is about stopping the Prime Minister from doing something that he hasn't done, even though there's already a law in place to do so.
That's exactly what injunctions are for, Mike. I tried to
Yeah, but you
explain
don't
it
need
to you
it, though.
earlier.
Yeah, but you
I
don't
tried to
need an
explain it earlier.
injunction.
You do. You do. If there's going to be imminent law breaking that will cause harm, you seek an injunction to prevent that law breaking. That's what
Can
we're
you
doing.
name a time when that's ever happened before?
Yeah, all the time. It's happened to me loads as an environment protester.
I'm
It
talking
happens.
about in politics.
No, we're in exceptional times, aren't we? You name a time to me when a Prime Minister of Britain has ever said he's going to break the law.
He's never said he's going to break the law. He has not said that.
No, he hasn't come out and said it categorically.
So you
but
can't
he
just
said,
make stuff up, Dale.
No, this is your job, making stuff up.
No, I
actually.
don't make stuff up.
Oh,
I
you
get
do.
held to
No,
account by the law, funnily enough. If I start making stuff up, I get sued for libel.
Yeah, quite right. I'm sure
You know, you
do.
can go around
I'm sure
calling the
you
Prime
do.
Minister...
But you exaggerate. You exaggerate. That's
I
how you
don't
make stuff
exaggerate.
up. Oh, you talk about coachloads of lawyers, hordes of lawyers.
Well, how many
millions.
lawyers have you got working for you?
One.
One lawyer.
Yeah, he can't fill a coach.
Okay, how much are you paying him?
What do you mean for the action itself?
Yeah.
It's between £10,000 and £20,000.
Okay, well, it's nothing to you, is it?
It's probably nothing to you, Mike.
It's a lot to me. You must be joking. I have to work for a living.
It's an after-dinner speech for Boris Johnson.
Well, maybe so. He's the Prime Minister. He's quite an important guy. He's done
Think so.
a lot of work in his time that's good for this country. He's also been elected by the people
He's
of
a
Uxbridge.
nothing. He's a nothing for this country.
He's
Come
been
on.
elected by the people of Uxbridge. He was
No.
previously elected by the people of Henley. Whoever elected you to do anything?
He was elected Prime Minister by the Tory party, 60,000 of them.
No, that's not the point. He was also the mayor. He
is
was
the
elected.
point.
He was elected mayor of London.
It is the point. You talk about democracy, 60,000 people voted for that man to be our Prime
Well, that's
Minister.
60,000 more than voted for you.
And now he's threatening to break the law. How
No, he's
wrong
not.
is that? He's
So
reckless.
you've gone from him saying he's going to break the law to threatening to break the law,
Yes.
even though you just said you admitted he's never said it.
Mike, if you pay attention to what he's been saying, he said he's not going to seek an extension from the EU.
That's right.
He'd rather die in a ditch.
Well, they've also said they're not going to give us one.
Nah, I don't think that's
Oh,
right.
so are they lying as well?
They haven't said that.
Yes, they have.
They may not give one, they've said.
Oh, they may not give
You have
one.
to read
Okay.
properly, come on.
Oh, okay. So
Read
they
properly.
may not give us an extension
Read
that
properly,
he may not
stop
ask
exaggerating, breathe a little, calm down.
for. I'm very calm. I do this every day. You are not in any way worrying me, Dale, at this point. But what I can't stand is
not
the
trying
fact
to
that
worry
you're
you, Mike.
sitting there.
not trying to worry.
You're sitting there, and you are self-appointed, and you are paid by the money that you have in your bank to hire lawyers to disrupt democracy. To hijack democracy and to change the course
Come
of
on,
history of
come
this
on.
country just because you happen to be a
You
loaded,
sound like a
wealthy
shock.
millionaire.
You sound like a shock jock now, Mike. Come on.
I don't sound like a shock jock at all.
I'm
I
not
am a shock jock.
Oh, right. Oh, well done.
See, you
Good
think that's an
impersonation.
insult. I don't take that as an insult. You
good
want to call me a shock
impersonation.
jock, that's fine. I didn't realise calling you a millionaire was an insult.
No, it's not. That's fine. You carry on. But, I'm not upending democracy.
What are you doing then?
I'm supporting it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How fascinating. You take an interesting line in democracy, don't you? You don't like people who were elected by the people. You don't like the people voting for something and then not getting it. But you say you're a defender of democracy.
You say that you're a defender of democracy.
I am.
But you're against Parliament. And Parliament passed this new law, which our Prime Minister says he won't abide by, but you think that's okay.
Well, he didn't say that he won't abide by it. So
did.
until something like that, if he breaks the law, come back to me and tell me
No.
what we should do about it.
Not
Okay?
gonna wait.
Well,
Not
let me
gonna
ask you
Not
this:
gonna wait, Mike.
if the Court of Session in Edinburgh said that he broke the law or that his prorogation was unlawful, why have they not reversed the prorogation? That's what I don't get.
Oh, well, that's a simple answer.
What is it?
Because there's going to be an appeal. And until there's an appeal, the status quo is maintained.
So he didn't really break the law then?
No, that's bullshit.
No,
Mike.
it is not. You can't
it is.
swear on the radio. I
Oh,
mean,
can we
you're
not?
not back in your new age
Oh, I thought
travelling
we were
van
on-
now.
I thought we were on right-wing radio.
This is
do
not
that kind of
right-wing
stuff.
radio. It's radio. This is the problem, Dale, that you think that I'm in some way biased, right? When in
No.
fact I'm not the biased one. If you talk to Jolyon Morm, he's the biased one. He's the guy who's obsessed with Brexit. He's the guy that can't stop and won't stop. And even if you lose this case, which you may well do, right? He's never going to give up, is he? Why doesn't he just accept the fact that people voted to leave? And I'm sorry if it upsets a few of the sort of, crystal glass types in Chiswick and a few of the people who, like to swan around in the Royal Crescent in Bath. I'm sorry about that. But unfortunately, the people who want to leave the European Union are in the majority.
So I gave you a simple explanation as to why the Court of Session in Scotland didn't resit Parliament, didn't overturn the current situation, and you just gloss straight over it and go into some
No, I didn't.
polemic rant.
No, you said that because it's going to be appealed. Well, I'm sorry.
That's a legal fact.
Yeah, but if you say to somebody you're breaking the law...
You said you didn't understand it, and I explained it to you.
You've broken the law, right? Do you not then stop them from further breaking it?
It's subject to the appeal. Don't you understand that? I mean, that's just a legal situation. The status quo is maintained until the appeal is
So
heard.
when somebody is found guilty in a court of law of a crime, you're telling me that they get to go free whenever there's an appeal?
I don't understand where you're coming from. You said you didn't understand why it hadn't been.
No, I'm saying they said that it was unlawful, right?
That's right. They did. It's clear.
But they did not then stop the unlawful behaviour, which makes no sense to me in any jurisprudence context.
And I've explained it to you. It's because there's an appeal pending. That's what they've decided is the right thing to do. I mean, what's wrong with that?
Well, because what I'm saying is that it's not a serious judgment, is it? If they are saying that you've broken the law but you carry on, don't worry about it, that doesn't make any sense.
Okay. Not to you, maybe. Not to you.
It doesn't.
I
But Dale,
hopefully
listen,
your
I wish
listeners may.
I wish you luck with your crusade against democracy.
Have we done already?
We are,
Oh.
because we are a commercial station. Unfortunately for us, we have to take advertising, unlike the BBC, who get paid by me to tell a load of old porkies half the time. The world is an interesting place.
The BBC are paid by you to tell porkies, or they pay you to tell porkies?
No,
Which way round is it?
no, I don't get paid by the taxpayer. That would be the BBC people that get paid by the taxpayer.
Oh, I see.
You see, we have a commercial operation, so we have to take adverts. In fact, while you're on, why don't you support us? Why don't you sell some adverts through your company to us? And that
Yeah,
way,
okay.
And that way you can protect democracy even more.
Join Ecotricity, everybody. There's my advert, and help us.
I will send you a bill for 20 grand. See you later. Dale
Yeah.
Vince, thank you very much indeed.